I stood among 50 relatives at my parents' 30th anniversary celebration in their backyard in suburban Ohio, holding a plate of potato salad I suddenly couldn't eat. My mother raised her champagne glass, put her arm around my younger sister Brooke, and declared loud enough for everyone to hear that Brooke was the daughter who truly loved them, while the other one, me, had never lifted a finger. For 9 years, I had been secretly covering their mortgage and sending $2,000 every single month. Nobody knew. Not one person in that crowd had any idea. I smiled politely, set down my plate on the nearest table, and walked to my car without saying a word. The 2-hour drive back to my apartment in Columbus felt like driving through fog, even though the June evening was perfectly clear. My hands gripped the steering wheel so tightly my knuckles turned white, and I had to keep blinking because my vision kept blurring with tears I refused to let fall. Not yet. Not while I was driving on the highway with trucks passing by and families heading home from their own Saturday celebrations. I turned off the radio because even the cheerful pop songs felt like an insult. The silence in my car was heavy, suffocating, filled with the echo of my mother's words playing over and over in my head. Never lifted a finger. Never lifted a finger. The phrase repeated like a broken record, each repetition driving the knife deeper into my chest. My mind drifted back 9 years, to when I was 19 years old and barely holding my own life together. I had been working 2 jobs while attending community college, living in a cramped studio apartment with a roommate who never cleaned, and eating ramen noodles 4 nights a week because that was all I could afford. Then my mother called me on a Tuesday afternoon, her voice shaking and raw from crying. Dad had lost his job at the manufacturing plant where he had worked for 22 years. The company was downsizing, moving operations overseas, and he was part of the 3rd round of layoffs. They were going to lose the house. The mortgage was 3 months behind already because they had been struggling even before the layoff, and the bank had sent a foreclosure notice. My mother sobbed into the phone, telling me they had nowhere to go, that they would end up on the street, that she did not know what to do. I remember sitting on the edge of my bed in that tiny studio, staring at the water stain on the ceiling, feeling my chest tighten with panic and responsibility. I was their daughter. I had to help. It did not matter that I was 19 and could barely afford my own rent. It did not matter that I was exhausted from working the morning shift at a coffee shop and the evening shift at a retail store. Family was family, and you helped family. So I promised to help them. Temporarily, I said, just until they got back on their feet. I started sending $500 a month at first, which meant I had to pick up extra shifts and drop one of my classes that semester. But $500 was not enough. The mortgage was $1,400, and there were utilities, insurance, property taxes, car payments. My mother kept calling with the same desperate voice, and I kept finding ways to send more. By the time I was 21, I was sending $1,000 a month. By 23, it was $1,500. By 25, when I finally graduated with my degree in financial analysis and landed a decent job, I was sending $2,000 every month like clockwork. The temporary help had become permanent, woven into the fabric of my life so deeply I did not know how to untangle it. My father had found part-time work within a year of losing his job. He told me about it casually during one of my monthly visits, mentioning he was doing some warehouse work, just a few shifts here and there. Nothing stable, he said. Nothing they could really count on. My mother had nodded along, saying they still needed my help, that things were still tight, that they were so grateful I was doing well enough to support them. I never asked for details. I never questioned it. I just kept sending the money because that is what good daughters did, right? That is what family meant. Sacrifice, support, love expressed through bank transfers and automatic payments that left my own account thin by the end of every month. Meanwhile, I worked my way through college, taking extra courses online, studying late into the night after my shifts, pushing myself harder than I had ever pushed before. I graduated summa cum laude, got my certification, landed a job at a good firm in Columbus. I was proud of myself, even if nobody else seemed to notice. My parents came to my graduation but left early because they had dinner plans. Brooke did not come at all. Brooke, my 24-year-old sister who still lived at home, rent-free, working part-time at a boutique in the mall. She spent her money on trips to Miami and Nashville with her friends, posted photos of herself in designer clothes with cocktails in her hand, and never once contributed $1 to the household expenses. But she was always there. She had Sunday dinners with them every week. She went shopping with Mom. She watched football games with Dad. She was present. And apparently, that counted for more than the $2,000 a month I had been bleeding out of my bank account for 9 years. I visited once a month, always on a Saturday, always staying for just a few hours before I felt the familiar chill in the air. My mother's tight smiles, my father's distracted responses, the way they lit up when Brooke walked into the room and barely glanced my way. I told myself it did not matter. I told myself I was not doing it for recognition. I was doing it because it was right, because they needed me, because I loved them. But tonight, standing in that backyard with the string lights glowing overhead and the smell of grilled burgers in the air, watching my mother put her arm around Brooke and announce to 50 relatives that Brooke was the daughter who loved them while I had never lifted a finger, something inside me shattered. Never lifted a finger. I had lifted my entire life for them. I had delayed buying a home because I could not save for a down payment. I had driven a 12-year-old car with a broken air conditioner because I could not afford the payment on something newer. I had turned down a promotion that would have required relocation because I needed to stay close enough to help if they needed me. I had broken up with a man I cared about because he wanted to move to Denver for his career, and I could not leave, could not stop sending the money that kept my parents afloat. And never lifted a finger. The tears finally came as I pulled into my apartment complex parking lot. I sat in my car with the engine off, crying so hard my whole body shook, my breath coming in gasps that fogged up the windshield. I cried for the 19-year-old girl who took on a burden too heavy for her shoulders. I cried for all the years of invisible sacrifice. I cried because I realized, finally, that no amount of money would ever make them see me. When the tears stopped, I felt hollow, empty, but also strangely clear. I pulled out my phone and opened my banking app, scrolling through 9 years of transaction history. $2,000 on the first of every month. Sometimes more when there was an emergency. The new water heater, the roof repair, the property tax increase. I added it up in my head roughly, then went inside and did it properly on my laptop. $97,000. I stared at the number on my screen. $97,000 over 9 years. That was a down payment on a house. That was a graduate degree. That was a new car, and a savings account, and a retirement fund, and vacations I never took, and clothes I never bought, and dinners I never enjoyed. That was my entire adult life, poured into a hole that never filled up, never showed any sign of my effort, never reflected back even a glimmer of gratitude. I checked the date, June 14th. My automatic transfer was scheduled for July 1st. I navigated to my bank's transfer settings and canceled it. My finger hovered over the confirm button for just a moment before I pressed it. The screen updated, transfer canceled. For the first time in 9 years, I took a full breath. I woke up to the sound of my phone buzzing like an angry hornet on my nightstand. The morning light streamed through my blinds, too bright and cheerful for how I felt. I reached for my phone with one eye still closed and froze when I saw the screen. 22 missed calls, 37 text messages. My heart started pounding as I scrolled through the list. 8 calls from Mom, 6 from Dad, 4 from Brooke, 2 from Aunt Linda, 2 from my cousin Ryan. The texts were even worse. A barrage of accusations and demands that made my stomach turn. "Where did you go?" From Mom. "Call us immediately," from Dad. "You embarrassed Mom in front of everyone," from Brooke. "We need to talk about your behavior," from Mom again. "This is unacceptable, Caitlin," from Dad. "Everyone is talking about how rude you were," from Aunt Linda. "Seriously, what is your problem?" from Brooke. "Call us now," from Mom, in all capital letters like shouting would make me comply faster. I scrolled through all 37 messages. Not one apology. Not one acknowledgement of what my mother had said at the party. Not one person asking if I was okay or why I left. Just accusations, demands, judgments about how I had ruined the party with my dramatic exit, how I had embarrassed the family, how I needed to apologize. I threw my phone onto my bed and walked to the bathroom, splashing cold water on my face. My reflection looked tired, with dark circles under my eyes from crying and barely sleeping. But there was something else there, too. A hardness around my mouth, a steadiness in my eyes. Something had shifted. I picked up my phone again and did something I had never done before. I blocked both my parents' numbers. Not permanently, I told myself. Just temporarily. Just until I could think clearly without the constant barrage of guilt and demands. The silence that followed felt like stepping into a soundproof room. Suddenly, I could hear my own thoughts. I got dressed in jeans and a t-shirt, grabbed my purse, and drove to my bank. The lobby was quiet on a Sunday morning, just one teller working and a manager at her desk. I asked to speak with someone about my accounts, and a young woman named Emily led me to a small office. "I need to cancel an automatic transfer," I said. "Of course. Do you have the account information?" I pulled up the details on my phone and watched as Emily typed on her computer. "This transfer has been active for quite a while," she noted. "Are you sure you want to cancel it?" "Very sure." "All set. The cancellation is effective immediately. Is there anything else I can help you with?" I hesitated, then asked about the one-bedroom unit that had just opened up in my building. I had received the notice 2 weeks ago, a larger apartment on the 3rd floor with better light and a balcony. It was $300 more per month than my current studio. I had glanced at it and dismissed it immediately because I could not afford it. Except now, I could. Now I had $2,000 a month that would stay in my account. Actually, I said to Emily, "I would like to discuss my savings options." We spent 20 minutes going over accounts, and I set up an automatic transfer of $1,500 a month into a high-yield savings account. Down payment fund, I labeled it mentally. The remaining $500 would be my fun money. Money for me, for the first time in 9 years. I left the bank feeling lighter, like I had been carrying a backpack full of rocks, and finally set it down. I drove to the mall, parked in the sunny lot, and walked into a department store I usually avoided because everything was too expensive. Today, I bought a dress. A beautiful navy blue dress with small white flowers, fitted at the waist and flowy at the hem. It cost $89, and I did not even flinch when I swiped my card. In the changing room, I looked at myself wearing the dress and barely recognized the woman staring back. When was the last time I had bought myself something nice? Something that was not on clearance or from a thrift store? I could not remember. I bought the dress. Then I bought a pair of sandals to match. Then I went to the bookstore and bought 3 books I had been wanting to read. By the time I got back to my apartment, I had spent $212, and I felt not guilty, but proud. My best friend Taylor called while I was making lunch. Taylor had been my roommate in college and was now a nurse at a hospital in Columbus. We had stayed close, getting together at least twice a month for coffee or movies, or just sitting on her couch watching cooking shows. "I heard what happened," Taylor said without preamble. "Ryan posted about it in the family group chat. His mom told him your mom was really upset that you left the party. Of course, that is what they are saying. What actually happened? I told her everything. The speech, the 9 years of payments, the realization of how much I had sacrificed, the canceled transfer." Taylor listened without interrupting, and when I finished, there was a long silence. "Caitlin," she finally said, her voice careful, "I have been wanting to say this for years, but I did not think you would hear it. Your family takes advantage of you. They have been taking advantage of you since you were 19 years old." "I know," I whispered, and it was the first time I had admitted it out loud. "What are you going to do?" "I do not know yet, but I am done sending money. That part is final." "Good." Do you want to meet for coffee? I have a shift tonight, but I am free this afternoon. We met at our usual coffee shop, a local place with mismatched furniture and strong espresso. Taylor hugged me hard when she saw me, and I nearly started crying again but managed to hold it together. We sat by the window, and I pulled out my phone. You know what? I said. I am going to do what you suggested a year ago. I am going to write it all down, make it concrete. Taylor smiled. I will get us more coffee. You work. I spent the next hour creating a spreadsheet on my phone, then transferring it to my laptop that I had brought in from my car. Every payment, every date, every amount. I went through 9 years of bank statements, downloading and categorizing and documenting. The coffee shop filled up with Sunday afternoon customers around us, but I barely noticed. The numbers grew and grew and grew. Then I saw it. 3 years ago, June, a payment of $8,000 with the memo car fund for B. Brooke had gotten a car for her 21st birthday. My parents had thrown a party, presented her with a set of keys tied to a big red bow, and everyone had hugged and congratulated them on such generous parents. I had been there. I had watched. I had never known that I had paid for it. 2 years ago, March, $4,000. The memo said FL trip. My parents had gone to Florida for their anniversary, posted photos on Facebook of themselves on the beach, talked about how they had been saving for years for this special vacation. I had liked the photos. I had commented how happy they looked. I had paid for the entire trip. Last year, September, $6,000. Living room furniture. My mother had redecorated the living room, bought a new couch, a new coffee table, new lamps. She had sent me photos, excited about the makeover, saying they had finally been able to afford some nice things. I had told her it looked beautiful. I had paid for every piece. My hands started shaking as the full picture emerged. They had not just accepted my money for necessities. They had taken credit for everything I funded. They had let relatives praise their generosity, their good financial management, their ability to give Brooke nice things and take nice trips and live comfortably, all while bleeding me dry and telling everyone I never lifted a finger. Taylor, I said quietly, and she looked over from her phone. What is it? I turned my laptop so she could see the spreadsheet. Her eyes went wide as she scrolled through the entries, the amounts, the dates, the memos. Oh, Caitlin, she breathed. This is so much worse than I thought. $97,000, I said, plus the car, the trip, the furniture, over $100,000. And they told 50 people I never lifted a finger. Taylor reached across the table and squeezed my hand. What are you going to do? I looked at the spreadsheet, at the concrete evidence of 9 years of invisible sacrifice, and felt something harden in my chest. Not bitterness exactly. Something clearer. Something like resolve. I am going to get my life back. 3 days passed in relative peace. I had unblocked my parents' numbers but ignored their calls, letting them go to voicemail. The messages started desperate and became angry. My father's voice, usually calm and measured, got tighter with each recording. My mother's tears sounded increasingly forced, theatrical. Brooke sent text after text, each one more accusatory than the last. Mom is crying every day. Dad says you are breaking their hearts. I cannot believe how selfish you are being. I did not respond to any of them. On Wednesday evening, I was cooking dinner when my phone rang. Mom. I stared at it for a long moment, then answered. Caitlin. My mother's voice was thick with tears. Finally. I have been trying to reach you for days. How could you do this to us? How could you just abandon us like this? Hi, Mom, I said calmly, stirring the pasta sauce on my stove. I needed some time to think. Think about what? About how you embarrassed us in front of the entire family? Your father and I are heartbroken. We raised you better than this. I took a slow breath. Can you explain something to me? Explain what? At the party. What did you mean when you said I never lifted a finger? Silence on the other end. Then, I was just praising Brooke. She does so much for us. She is here all the time. She helps with groceries. She keeps us company. I was just acknowledging her by saying I never lifted a finger. Well, you are not here as much. You are always busy with work, with your own life. We hardly see you. Do you know why I am always busy with work, Mom? Because you are ambitious. Which is fine, but family should come first. I am busy because I work 60-hour weeks to make enough money to send you $2,000 every month. The silence this time was longer, heavy. I could hear her breathing on the other end. Well, she finally said, her voice different now, harder. We needed that money. We still need it. Your father and I are barely getting by. Needed it for what? For the mortgage, for bills. You know this, Caitlin. We have been struggling since your father lost his job. That was 9 years ago, Mom. And we are still struggling. Are you... I turned off the stove and leaned against my counter. Because I am trying to understand something. If you are barely getting by, how did you afford a vacation to Florida 2 years ago? How did you buy Brooke a car for her birthday? How did you redecorate the living room? Another long silence. Caitlin, we make sacrifices. We save where we can. Those were special occasions. I paid for all of that. Every single dollar. I have the bank statements. You. She trailed off, and I heard her swallow. You offered to help. We did not force you. You told me you were going to lose the house. You called me crying. You said you had no choice. And I helped because I love you. But you have been lying to me, Mom. You are not barely getting by. You have been using my money to fund a lifestyle and then taking credit for it while treating me like I contribute nothing. That is not true. We are grateful for your help. Then why did you tell 50 people I never lifted a finger? I told you, I was just praising your sister. You could have praised Brooke without tearing me down. You could have acknowledged what I have been doing for 9 years. You could have been honest. My mother's voice shifted again, becoming cold. Is that what this is about? You want recognition? You want us to thank you every time you send money? That is not how family works, Caitlin. Family helps each other without keeping score. You are right, I said quietly. That is exactly how family should work. Which is why I am not sending any more money. What? I canceled the transfer, effective immediately. No more $2,000 a month. You cannot be serious. I am completely serious. Caitlin, Elizabeth, you cannot do this to us. Her voice rose to a shout. We will lose our home. We have bills. We have expenses. Then I suggest you use the money you and Dad earn from your jobs. Our jobs barely cover anything. I think they cover more than you have been telling me. But either way, this is not my responsibility anymore. I heard rustling, muffled voices, and then my father's voice came on the line. Caitlin, what is your mother telling me? You are cutting off our support. Hi, Dad. Yes, that is correct. After everything we have done for you. His voice had that disappointed tone I remembered from childhood, the one that used to make me feel small and ashamed. We raised you. We fed you. We clothed you. We paid for your school supplies and your sports fees and everything you needed growing up. And this is how you repay us, by supporting you financially for 9 years while you lied about your situation. We did not lie. We have been struggling. Then maybe Brooke should start contributing. She lives at home rent-free. She is 24 years old. She has a job. Why am I the only one expected to sacrifice? Brooke cannot afford it. She barely makes minimum wage at that boutique. And whose fault is that? She still lives at home because you let her. She does not contribute because you do not make her. But I had to start helping when I was 19 years old, working 2 jobs and going to school, sending you money I could not afford to send. Do you know what I have sacrificed for you? Nobody asked you to sacrifice anything. Yes, you did. You called me crying. You sent me foreclosure notices. You made me feel like I was the only thing standing between you and homelessness. And I believed you because you are my parents, and I loved you, and I wanted to help. But you used me, Dad. You used me, and then you let Mom stand up in front of 50 people and say I never lifted a finger. You are being dramatic. Your mother was emotional. She had been drinking. You are taking this way too personally. How else should I take it? Like an adult. Life is not fair, Caitlin. You are not always going to get a pat on the back for doing what you are supposed to do. What I was supposed to do? I was supposed to fund your lifestyle for 9 years while you treated me like I did not matter. That is not what happened. Then what did happen, Dad? Explain it to me. He was quiet for a moment, then said in a low voice, You always had more. You always were smarter, more ambitious. You got the good job, the nice salary. Brooke is not like you. She needs more support. We thought you would understand that. So you took my money and gave her the credit. We gave you both what you needed. Brooke needs emotional support. You need to feel useful. The words hit me like a punch to the gut. Need to feel useful. That is what I was to them. Not a daughter, a resource, a checkbook with feelings that could be manipulated. I am done, I said. I am done with this conversation, and I am done sending money. You figure it out. Do not expect to be welcome here anymore, my father said, his voice ice cold. If you are going to abandon your family in our time of need, then you are not our daughter. He hung up before I could respond. I stood in my kitchen, staring at my phone, feeling numb. Then it buzzed with a text message from Brooke. Thanks a lot. Now they are crying and saying they might lose the house. This is your fault. You always have to make everything about you. Some of us actually care about family. I read the message 3 times. Then I took a screenshot and saved it. I did not reply. What was the point? They saw me as an ATM, not a person. They saw my boundaries as selfishness, my exhaustion as drama. They would never understand because they did not want to understand. But I understood now, perfectly, clearly. And that understanding, painful as it was, felt like freedom. A week passed. I threw myself into work, taking on a project I had been avoiding because it was complex and time-consuming. But now I needed the distraction, needed to fill my mind with numbers and projections and spreadsheets instead of the endless loop of my father's words. You need to feel useful. As if that was a weakness. As if my entire worth to them had been transactional all along. But I could not shake the feeling that something was wrong beyond just the emotional manipulation. The numbers did not add up. My parents had been receiving $2,000 a month from me for 9 years. That should have been more than enough to cover the mortgage and utilities and basic expenses. So where was their money going? On Saturday morning, I called my father's younger brother, Uncle Mark. He lived in Pennsylvania with his wife and 2 kids, worked as an engineer, and had always been the straight shooter in the family. We had a good relationship. He was the one who remembered my birthday every year, who asked about my job, who actually listened when I talked. Caitlin. He sounded genuinely happy to hear from me. How are you doing? I heard there was some drama at the anniversary party. That is actually why I am calling. Do you have time to meet for coffee? I know it is a drive, but I need to talk to someone I trust. Of course. How about next Saturday? I was planning to be in Columbus anyway for a meeting. We could meet for lunch instead. We agreed on a restaurant halfway between our locations, a casual place with good sandwiches. The week crawled by. I worked, I went home, I avoided my phone. My parents had stopped calling, which felt both relieving and unsettling. Brooke sent one more nasty text, which I ignored. Saturday finally arrived. I got to the restaurant early and sat at a booth by the window, watching cars pull into the parking lot. Uncle Mark arrived right on time, tall and gray-haired and wearing his usual flannel shirt. He hugged me hard. You look tired, he said as we sat down. I am tired. We ordered food, and I waited until the server left before I started talking. I told him everything. The 9 years of payments, the speech at the party, the discovery that I had paid for Brooke's car, the vacation, the furniture, the phone call with my parents. All of it spilled out in a rush, while my club sandwich sat untouched on my plate. Uncle Mark listened, his face growing darker with each detail. When I finished, he leaned back in his chair and rubbed his hand over his face. "Caitlin," he said slowly, "I have been worried about you for years." "What do you mean? You always looked exhausted, stressed. You drove that beat-up car while Brooke posted vacation photos. You wore the same clothes year after year while your parents took trips. I knew something was not right, but I thought maybe you were just bad with money or had student loans or something. I never imagined this. Did they ever talk about their finances with you?" "Once, about 4 years ago. I asked your dad how they were doing after he lost that job. He told me they had gotten back on their feet, that they were doing fine. I was relieved because I remembered how hard those first couple years were. My heart started pounding. They told you they were doing fine." "Yeah, said he had found steady work. Your mom had picked up some hours. They were managing well." "Why?" "They told me they were still struggling, that they still needed my help." Uncle Mark's expression hardened. "What kind of work is your dad doing?" He said part-time warehouse work, just a few shifts here and there. "Caitlin, your dad has been working full-time at a warehouse for 7 years. I know because my buddy Carl works there too. He mentioned it a few years back when I ran into him at a wedding. Said your dad was a hard worker, always took the overtime shifts. The restaurant suddenly felt too hot. My hands were shaking. Full-time? For 7 years. At least. Probably more. And your mom, she works at a medical office, 3 days a week. They are not rich, but they should be fine on their combined income." I pulled out my phone and showed him the spreadsheet I had created. Uncle Mark scrolled through it, his jaw tightening. When he got to the bottom, he looked up at me with something like anger in his eyes. "They have been lying to you for years." "I know, but why? If they have income, why keep taking my money?" "Because you kept giving it. Because it was easier to let you sacrifice than to live within their means. I paid for their vacation, their furniture, Brooke's car, while they were earning their own money. Did you know they refinanced the house?" "What?" "About 4 years ago. I know because your dad mentioned it in passing. Said they got a better interest rate. You should check public records. It is all available online." I pulled up the county property records on my phone right there in the restaurant. It took me 10 minutes of searching, but I found it. My childhood home, purchased in 1998, refinanced in 2021. They had taken out $60,000 in equity. $60,000. While I was sending them $2,000 a month, they had $60,000 from a refinance. Where did that money go? What did they spend it on? Uncle Mark reached across the table and squeezed my hand. "I am so sorry, kiddo. I should have noticed. I should have said something. It is not your fault. Still, what are you going to do?" "I do not know yet, but I need to see something." After lunch, I told Uncle Mark I would call him soon, and I drove toward my parents' house. I did not plan to go in or even knock on the door. I just needed to see it. I parked down the street and walked slowly past the house where I grew up. The lawn was perfectly manicured, new flowers in the beds, fresh paint on the shutters, and in the driveway, gleaming in the afternoon sun, was a brand new truck, dark blue, extended cab, the kind that cost at least $35,000 based on the model. My father was washing it in the driveway, running a sponge over the hood with careful attention. He looked happy, content, not like a man who was barely scraping by and about to lose his home. I took a photo with my phone, zoomed in to get the license plate and the clean shine of that expensive new truck. Then I walked back to my car, got in, and drove away before he could see me. They did not need my money. They had not needed it for years. They had just liked having it. liked living beyond their means on my dime while I drove a 12-year-old car and delayed my own life. They had lied to me, used me, and then humiliated me in front of 50 people for good measure. I pulled over at a gas station and called Taylor. You are not going to believe what I just found out. 2 weeks after the anniversary party, an envelope arrived in my mail. Official-looking, thick paper, a return address from a law firm I did not recognize. My hands shook as I opened it. It was a letter from a lawyer representing my parents. I had to read it 3 times before the words fully registered. They were threatening to sue me for financial abandonment. The letter claimed I had made a verbal contract to support them, that they had relied on my assistance for nearly a decade, and that my sudden withdrawal of funds constituted a breach of that contract and caused them severe financial distress. I sat on my couch staring at the letter, feeling like I had been punched in the chest. They were actually threatening to sue me, their own daughter, because I stopped giving them money I had never been legally obligated to give in the first place. I called Taylor, and she came over within an hour. She read the letter, her face getting redder with each paragraph. "This is insane," she said. "Can they actually do this? I have no idea. I do not know anything about law. My cousin Derek does family law. Let me call him right now." Derek agreed to meet us the next day at his office. He was 32, wore a perfectly pressed suit, and had the kind of calm demeanor that immediately made me feel safer. He read the letter, then looked up at me with something close to amusement. "This has absolutely no legal standing," he said. "Adult children have no legal obligation to support their parents, especially when those parents are capable of working. Verbal contracts for ongoing financial support are nearly impossible to prove and even harder to enforce. This is a scare tactic, so they cannot sue me. They can try, but any judge would throw it out in about 5 minutes. However, based on what you have told me, you might actually have grounds to sue them." "What? If they misrepresented their financial situation to obtain money from you under false pretenses, that is fraud. You have documentation showing regular payments, bank records showing they refinanced their home and purchased expensive items while claiming they could not afford basic necessities, and proof that they were employed when they told you they were struggling. That is a textbook case of financial exploitation." I shook my head. "I do not want to sue them. I just want them to leave me alone. Then I will draft a cease and desist letter. It will outline what you have paid, evidence that they misrepresented their situation, and a clear demand that they stop all contact and harassment. If they continue after receiving this letter, we can pursue legal action. How much will this cost? For you? Nothing. Taylor is family, and this is the easiest case I have seen in months. I will have the letter ready by tomorrow." Derek was true to his word. The next day, I reviewed a detailed cease and desist letter that laid out 9 years of payments, the refinance, the truck purchase, and my parents' actual employment status. It was professional, factual, and completely damning. Derek sent it via certified mail, requiring a signature. 3 days later, my Aunt Linda called. Not my mother or father. Linda. "Caitlin. Honey, we need to talk." "Hi, Aunt Linda. I just heard from your mother. She is very upset about this letter from a lawyer." "I am sure she is. She says you are threatening to sue them. Is that true?" "No. They threatened to sue me first. The letter from my lawyer is just telling them to stop harassing me." There was a pause. "They threatened to sue you for stopping the money I had been sending them. Did they tell you about that part?" "What money?" I explained it all again, and I could hear Aunt Linda's breathing get faster as the story unfolded. When I finished, she was quiet for a long time. "Caitlin," she finally said, "I had no idea. Nobody knew." "That is because they never told anyone. They let everyone think they were doing fine on their own while I paid their bills. Your mother told us you stopped visiting, that you were too busy with work. She made it sound like you had pulled away from the family. I visited every month, For 9 years. Oh, honey, Aunt Linda's voice cracked. I am so sorry. We should have noticed. We should have asked more questions. It is not your fault, Aunt Linda. Your mother called me yesterday asking if I could lend them some money. She said they were in a bind. I told her I did not have anything extra right now. She got angry with me, said family should help family. I felt terrible, but now I understand. Understand what? She was trying to replace your money. She was going around to relatives asking for loans. I bet she did not mention the new truck in the driveway, or the refinance, or any of it. My stomach turned. She is asking other relatives for money. She called at least 3 of us that I know of. Your Uncle Tom actually sent her $500 last week. He thought they were in trouble. They are not in trouble. They just do not want to live on their actual budget. Aunt Linda sighed. There is something else you should know. At the anniversary party, did you hear your sister's announcement? What announcement? Brooke announced she is engaged. She and that boy Travis from the country club. And she told everyone your parents were going to pay for the wedding. A big wedding at the country club. $30,000. That is why your mother was praising her so much that night. They were softening everyone up to ask for money. Everything clicked into place. The excessive praise for Brooke. The public humiliation of me. They needed money for a wedding, and I had been their primary source of funds. When I left, they had to turn to other relatives. They had orchestrated the whole thing. Aunt Linda, can I ask you something? Please be honest with me. Of course, honey. Did anyone at that party think what my mother said was appropriate? Did anyone think it was wrong? She hesitated. A lot of people were uncomfortable. Your cousin Rachel said something to me about it being harsh. Your Uncle Mark looked furious. But nobody wanted to make a scene at a party. We all just stayed quiet. Right. Because making a scene would have been rude. But publicly humiliating me was fine. Caitlin, I am sorry. We should have said something. I thanked Aunt Linda for calling and hung up. I felt hollow. Not angry anymore, just empty. My parents had not just used me. They had planned to keep using me to fund Brooke's wedding, and when I did not comply, they had turned me into the villain. My phone buzzed with an unknown number. Against my better judgment, I answered. Caitlin, please, we need to talk. My mother's voice, syrupy sweet now, all the anger gone. Can we just have a conversation? As adults, I have nothing to say to you. Please, baby. I am sorry if I hurt your feelings at the party. I was just emotional. I did not mean anything by it. You know I love you. Do you? Do you love me? Or do you love what I can give you? That is not fair. Fair? You want to talk about fair? You lied to me for years. You took my money while you had jobs and savings. You bought a truck while telling me you could not afford your mortgage. We needed that truck. Your father's old one was breaking down. Then you use your own money to buy it. Not mine. Her voice hardened. We did use our money. The money you sent us became our money. That is how it works. Not anymore. My father's voice came on the line, and I realized I was on speakerphone. Caitlin, let us make a deal. You send us half of what you are sending. 1,000 a month, instead of 2. We will apologize. We will make things right. But we need your help. No, just 1,000. That is nothing to you. It is not nothing. It is my money. Money I earned. Money I deserve to keep for myself after everything we have done for you. His voice rose. We raised you. We fed you. We put a roof over your head. That was your job as parents. That is what you sign up for when you have children. You do not get to use that as leverage for the rest of my life. You are being selfish and ungrateful. I have been anything but selfish for 9 years. I am done now. Do not call me again. I hung up and blocked both numbers again, this time for good. My hands were shaking, but I felt clear. Certain. They would never understand. They would never admit what they had done. But I did not need them to. I just needed them to leave me alone. The next day, my parents showed up at my apartment building. The manager, Marcus, called me at work. There are 2 people here, saying they are your parents. They are demanding to see you. Should I let them up? No. Please do not. If they do not leave, call the police. I left work early and drove home. My parents were still in the lobby when I arrived. My mother's eyes were red from crying. My father looked furious. I walked right up to them with my phone recording in my pocket. You need to leave, I said calmly. You are not welcome here. Caitlin, please, my mother begged. We just want to talk. There is nothing to talk about. Marcus stood behind his desk, watching carefully, his hand near the phone. My father stepped closer, and Marcus moved toward us. Sir, you need to step back. After everything we have done for you, my father said, his voice loud enough that other residents in the lobby turned to look. You are treating us like criminals. I reached into my bag and pulled out a printed copy of my 9-year payment spreadsheet, every date, every amount, every memo. I handed it to him. This is everything I gave you. $97,000. Plus the car, the vacation, the furniture. While you were both employed and had equity in your house, you lied to me. You used me. And then you humiliated me in front of 50 people. I do not owe you anything anymore. My mother grabbed the papers, scanning them with wide eyes. You kept track? You made a spreadsheet of money you gave your own parents. You made it necessary. This is what you think of family, my father shouted, keeping score like we are strangers. You are not strangers. Strangers would not have betrayed me this thoroughly. A neighbor walking through the lobby stopped to watch. My mother started crying louder, making a show of it. Please, baby, we cannot lose our home. We need you. No, you do not. You have your jobs. You have your refinance money. You have your new truck. You do not need me. You just want me to keep funding your lifestyle while you take all the credit. I turned to Marcus. If they do not leave right now, please call the police. Marcus picked up his phone. My father grabbed my mother's arm. Let us go. She has made her choice. We do not have a daughter anymore. They walked out. I stood in the lobby, shaking but strangely calm. The neighbor who had been watching came over. Are you okay? She asked. I will be. That took guts. Good for you. I went upstairs to my apartment, locked the door, and finally let myself cry. But these tears were different. Not from pain, from release, from finally choosing myself. 3 weeks after my parents showed up at my apartment, I was starting to feel like myself again. I slept through the night, without waking up anxious. I stopped checking my phone every 5 minutes for angry messages. I went to work, came home, cooked real meals, and even started looking at graduate school programs online. Then the certified mail receipt came. My parents had received Derek's cease and desist letter. I did not expect it to change anything, but I had underestimated how much they needed to control the narrative. My mother called from yet another unknown number. I almost did not answer, but something made me pick up. Caitlin, you have to stop this. That letter from your lawyer, it is humiliating. People are asking questions. You are making us look bad. I made you look bad? You stood in front of 50 people and said I never lifted a finger. I explained that already. I was just emotional. But now you have a lawyer sending us letters about fraud? Do you know what that looks like? It looks like the truth. The truth, her voice went shrill. The truth is that you are trying to destroy us because we did not thank you enough. That is what this is really about, is it not? You wanted us to bow down and worship you for sending money. I wanted basic acknowledgement, basic honesty. Was that too much to ask? We are your parents. We should not have to ask our own daughter for help. You should want to help us. I did help you, for 9 years. While you lied to me, My father took the phone. His voice was calmer now, controlled. Caitlin, let me be clear. If you do not stop this, we will tell everyone in the family what you are really like, how you turned your back on us, how you are trying to sue us, how you are vindictive and cruel. Is that what you want? Something in me snapped. Go ahead, tell them. But make sure you tell them all of it. Tell them about the $97,000. Tell them about your jobs that you hid from me. Tell them about the refinance and the truck. Tell them everything. Nobody will believe you. I have documentation. 9 years of bank records. Legal proof. Who do you think they will believe? Silence. Then my father said quietly, You have changed. You are not the girl we raised. You are right. I am not. The girl you raised would have kept sacrificing herself to make you happy. The woman I am now chooses herself. He hung up. I sat on my couch, waiting for the panic to come, but it did not. I felt strong, clear, free. Over the next few days, Uncle Mark started making phone calls. He reached out to relatives, explaining what had really been happening. Not gossip, he said, just truth, because he was tired of watching my parents lie and seeing me take the blame. My cousin Rachel called first. Caitlin, I am so sorry. I had no idea. Your Uncle Mark told me everything. How could your parents do that to you? I am still figuring that out myself. A bunch of us have been talking. We believe you. And we think what they did at the party was cruel. Aunt Linda called next. Then my cousin Ryan. Then Uncle Tom, who apologized profusely for sending my parents money without asking more questions. One by one, the family was learning the truth. My parents tried to counter with their own story. They sent a group text to the family chat, claiming I was lying, that I was trying to turn everyone against them, that I had always been difficult and ungrateful. But Uncle Mark responded with a simple message. Ask them about the truck. Ask them about their jobs. Ask them about the refinance. If Caitlin is lying, they should have no problem answering. Nobody ever got answers to those questions. Brooke stayed silent through all of it, which somehow hurt more than anything else. Not a text, not a call, nothing. Until one evening, almost a month after the party, when she sent me a message, "We need to talk." I called her. She answered on the first ring, and I could hear crying in the background. "Brooke, what is wrong?" "Travis broke up with me." Her voice was thick with tears. "I am sorry. When did this happen?" 2 days ago. He called off the engagement. He said his parents are not comfortable with the relationship anymore. Why? Because of Mom and Dad. Because they cannot contribute to the wedding like they promised. Travis' parents wanted to meet them to discuss wedding plans, and when they came over, Dad was driving that stupid truck, and Mom kept talking about how they were struggling financially. Travis' family is rich, Caitlin. Really rich, and they think our family is a mess now. I should have felt vindicated, but I just felt sad. "I am sorry you are going through this. It is your fault," she burst out. "If you had not stopped helping them, they could have paid for the wedding, and Travis' family would not have thought we were poor." "Brooke, did you know I was sending them money all these years?" Silence. "Did you know?" "Not all of it," she finally whispered. "I knew they got help sometimes. I did not know it was that much, or for that long. Did you know they paid for your car with my money?" "What?" "No. They said it was a gift from them. It was my money. The vacation to Florida? My money. The living room furniture? My money. Everything they took credit for, I paid for. While I drove a beat-up car and worked 60-hour weeks. I did not know," she said again, but her voice was uncertain. "Did you ever wonder where the money was coming from? Did you ever think to ask? They are our parents. I trusted them. So did I. And they used us both, just in different ways. They used me for money and you for appearance. What do you mean? Think about it. They kept you close, praised you constantly, made you the golden child. but they were setting you up to take credit for things they could not afford. You were their proof that they were doing well. And now that the money is gone, what are they doing? Brooke was quiet. They are falling apart, I continued, because their lifestyle was built on my sacrifice, and now they actually have to live within their means. So, what am I supposed to do? She asked, and she sounded so young, so lost. Figure out who you are without their manipulation. Get your own place. Support yourself. Build a life that is yours, not theirs. I do not know if I can. You can. You are stronger than you think, but you have to choose it. We talked for another 20 minutes. It was not healing or comfortable, but it was real. She apologized, sort of. A half-hearted, I am sorry you felt hurt kind of apology. But it was something. After we hung up, I realized I did not need her full acknowledgement. I did not need anyone's validation. I had my own truth, my own records, my own clear conscience. That was enough. 2 days later, I got one final call from my mother. Her voice was small, defeated. Caitlin, your father and I talked to a financial counselor. She said we need to sell the truck. We need to make a real budget. We need to live differently. That sounds like a good plan. We cannot do the wedding for Brooke. We cannot afford it. She is devastated. She will survive. Will you? Will I? What? Will you survive without us? Will you be happy? It was the strangest question, and it told me everything I needed to know. They still thought I needed them more than they needed my money. I will be more than fine, Mom. I am already happy. Happier than I have been in years. I am sorry, she finally said. I am sorry we hurt you. I do not know if you will ever believe me, but I am sorry. It was not the apology I had imagined. It was not tearful or detailed or full of acknowledgement, but it was real. I could hear it in her voice. Thank you for saying that. Can we ever fix this? I do not know. Maybe someday, but not now. I need time, and you need to figure out your own life without relying on me. Okay, she whispered. Okay. She hung up. I sat on my balcony watching the sun set over Columbus, feeling the evening breeze on my face. It was not closure, not really, but it was something. A small crack in the wall, maybe enough to let some light through someday. But for now, I was done waiting for them to change. I had my own life to build. 2 months after the anniversary party, I signed a lease on the bigger apartment I had been dreaming about. 1 bedroom, 3rd floor, with a balcony overlooking the park and windows that let in morning light. The rent was $300 more per month, but for the first time in 9 years, I could afford it comfortably. Taylor helped me move, along with Uncle Mark and Aunt Linda, who drove down with a trailer full of furniture they insisted I take. A couch that actually matched my style, a real dining table, lamps and rugs and kitchen supplies. They hugged me hard when they left, and Aunt Linda whispered, "We are proud of you." I unpacked, slowly, deliberately, arranging everything exactly how I wanted it. My books on the shelf in alphabetical order, my plants in the windows where they would get sun, my diplomas on the wall, framed properly for the first time. This was my space. Mine. The following Monday, I enrolled in an online MBA program through Ohio State. I had been postponing graduate school for years, telling myself I could not afford it, could not spare the time. But now I had both. The program was designed for working professionals, with classes in the evenings and on weekends. I could finish in 3 years while keeping my job. Work itself was getting better too. My manager, Sharon, had noticed the change in me. I was more focused, more confident. I started speaking up in meetings, sharing ideas I would have kept to myself before. 6 weeks after the party, Sharon called me into her office and offered me a promotion. Senior analyst, with a 15% raise and a team of my own. "You have been doing the work anyway," she said. "Might as well get paid for it." I accepted on the spot. The raise meant another $800 a month. I set up automatic transfers. $1,000 into savings for a house down payment, $200 into my retirement account, $300 into a travel fund. For the first time in my adult life, I was building wealth instead of just treading water. I started dating too, though I took it slow. Taylor set me up with her coworker's brother, a guy named Aaron, who taught high school history and made terrible jokes that somehow always made me laugh. We went to dinner, to movies, to the farmer's market on Saturday mornings. He did not ask about my family drama, did not push for explanations. He just liked spending time with me, and I liked spending time with him. "You seem different lately," Taylor said one evening when we were having wine on my new balcony. "Lighter. I feel lighter. Like I have been carrying something heavy for so long I forgot what it felt like to stand up straight." "Have you talked to your parents?" "Not since that last phone call with my mom. She sent a Christmas card. Just sign their names. Nothing else. I sent one back. Same thing. And Brooke. She moved out of their house finally. Got an apartment with a roommate. She sent me a text last week saying thank you. Just 2 words. But I think she meant it. That is something. It is. I do not know if we will ever be close, but at least she is finding her own way now." Thanksgiving came. I had been dreading it, worried about being alone. But Aunt Linda invited me to her house, along with Uncle Mark and his family. We had dinner together. 20 of us crowded around a too-small table, laughing and passing dishes and arguing about football. My parents were not there. Nobody mentioned them. It was not awkward. It was just peaceful. Christmas was quieter. I spent it with Aaron and his family, meeting his parents and his sister and her kids. They were loud and warm and asked me about my job and my apartment and my plans for the future. They treated me like a person, not a wallet. On New Year's Eve, I sat on my balcony wrapped in a blanket, watching fireworks bloom in the distance. I made a list of everything I had accomplished in 6 months. Stopped sending money to my parents, moved into a better apartment, got promoted, enrolled in graduate school, started saving for a house, built real relationships with people who valued me, learned to choose myself. It was not a long list, but it felt monumental. Each item represented a piece of my life I had taken back, a choice I had made for myself instead of for someone else. In February, I got a call from Uncle Mark. "I am selling my boat. Your aunt says I never use it anyway, but I wanted to offer it to you first. You always loved being on the water when you were a kid." I bought the boat for half of what it was worth. A small fishing boat, nothing fancy, but mine. Aaron and I took it out on the lake that first warm weekend in March, and I felt something I had not felt in years. Pure, uncomplicated joy. The sun on my face, the water glittering, the future stretching out like the horizon, full of possibility. My savings account grew steadily. By April, I had $15,000 saved for a house down payment. By June, it was $23,000. I started looking at real estate listings, imagining which house could be mine. Something small but sturdy. A yard for a garden. A porch where I could sit in the evenings. One Saturday in July, almost a year after the anniversary party, I found it. A small bungalow on the east side of Columbus. 2 bedrooms, 1 bathroom, built in the 1940s, with hardwood floors and a fireplace. It needed work, but it was beautiful, and it was within my budget. I made an offer that evening. The sellers accepted 3 days later. The closing was scheduled for August 15th. Taylor took the day off work to come with me. Aaron brought champagne. Uncle Mark and Aunt Linda drove down with a housewarming gift. We stood in the empty living room of my house, and popped the champagne to Caitlin. Uncle Mark said, raising his glass, "Who had the courage to choose herself? To new beginnings." Aunt Linda added, "To knowing your worth." Taylor said, I looked around at these people who had supported me, who had believed me, who had celebrated my strength instead of punishing it. This was family, not the people who shared my blood, but the people who had my back. That night, after everyone left, I sat alone in my empty house and wrote in my journal. I had started journaling 6 months earlier, processing everything that had happened, trying to make sense of it all. Now I wrote, I learned that love should not cost you your peace, your dreams, or your self-respect. Real family does not keep score, but they also do not bleed you dry and call it devotion. Sometimes the most loving thing you can do for yourself is to stop setting yourself on fire to keep others warm. The people who truly care about you will celebrate your light, not just benefit from your sacrifice. And when you finally choose yourself, you will discover that you were never selfish. You were just finally seeing clearly. Freedom is not found in being needed. It is found in being valued, and I am worth more than what I can give away. I closed my journal and walked through my house, room by empty room, imagining how I would fill it, not with furniture or things, but with life, with laughter and quiet mornings and dinner parties with friends, with hobbies I had never had time for, with rest I had never allowed myself, with joy I had earned. My phone buzzed, a text from my mother. Just 3 words, we miss you. I stared at it for a long time. Part of me wanted to respond, wanted to build a bridge, wanted to try again. But I knew better now. They missed what I gave them, not who I was. Maybe someday that would change. Maybe someday they would do the work to understand what they had done and why it mattered. Maybe someday we would have a real relationship built on honesty and mutual respect. But that day was not today. Today, I was standing in my own house, holding my own boundaries, living my own life. That was enough. More than enough. It was everything. I deleted the text without responding and went to bed in my sleeping bag on the floor of my new bedroom. The house was quiet, except for the sound of crickets outside and the gentle creak of old floorboards. I fell asleep, smiling. Over the next 6 months, I slowly furnished my house, a real bed with a good mattress, a couch that did not sag in the middle. Bookshelves I assembled myself with Aaron's help. I planted tomatoes and herbs in the backyard. I adopted a cat from the shelter, a gray tabby who slept on my lap while I studied for my MBA classes. Work continued to go well. I led my team through a major project, and Sharon praised my leadership. I got another raise. I started mentoring a junior analyst who reminded me of myself at that age, eager and hardworking and trying too hard to please everyone. It is okay to disappoint people sometimes. I told her during one of our coffee meetings, it is okay to say no. Your worth is not measured by how much you sacrifice. She looked at me like I had given her permission to breathe. Aaron and I celebrated our 1-year anniversary with a weekend trip to Chicago. We walked along the lake, ate deep dish pizza, went to museums and laughed at inside jokes. He told me he loved me on the top of the Willis Tower, looking out at the city sprawling below us. I love you too, I said, and meant it completely. In December, Brooke called me. She had not called in months, just occasional texts with updates about her life. She sounded different. Steadier. I got a new job, she said. Customer service manager at a marketing firm. It pays real money, enough to afford my own apartment without a roommate. That is wonderful, Brooke. I am proud of you. I have been going to therapy, talking about mom and dad and everything. My therapist says I was codependent, that they kept me helpless on purpose. That sounds like good insight. I am sorry, Caitlin. For real this time. Not sorry you felt hurt. Sorry for what I did. For taking credit. For not standing up for you. For believing their version of everything without asking questions. My throat tightened. Thank you. That means a lot. Do you think we could get coffee sometime? Not to fix everything, just to talk. I would like that. We met the following week at a coffee shop halfway between our apartments. It was awkward at first, both of us careful with our words, but slowly, we started to find a rhythm. She told me about her job, her therapy, her plan to go back to school. I told her about my house, my MBA program. Aaron, you seem happy, she said. I am. Finally. I think I am getting there too. It is hard, figuring out who I am when I am not just doing what they want. But it is good. We did not become best friends overnight. But we started texting more, meeting for coffee every few weeks. It was a beginning. Small, but real. My parents sent another Christmas card. This year, there was a note. We are doing well. Dad retired from the warehouse. We downsized to a smaller house. Life is simpler now. We think about you often. Love, Mom and Dad. I read it 3 times, looking for the hidden ask, the guilt trip, the manipulation. But it was just information. An update. An olive branch, maybe. I wrote back. A short note, friendly but boundaried. Glad you are doing well. My life is good too. I bought a house, started graduate school. Maybe we can talk sometime in the new year. I did not know if we would ever have a real relationship, but I was open to the possibility, not because I owed them, not because family had to mean sacrifice, but because I was strong enough now to have boundaries and compassion at the same time. On New Year's Eve, I threw a party at my house. Taylor and Aaron, Uncle Mark and Aunt Linda, my coworkers from my team, neighbors from my street, friends from my MBA program. 30 people filled my living room and kitchen and spilled out onto the back porch. We ate too much food, drank champagne at midnight, and someone started karaoke on my new television. At one point, I stood in my kitchen, watching everyone laugh and talk, and Taylor came up beside me. This is a good life you have built, she said. It really is. Are you happy? I thought about the question. A year ago, I would have said I was fine. Okay, managing. Now, standing in my own house surrounded by people who actually valued me, I could say honestly, yes, I am happy. Really, truly happy. And I was. So let me ask you something. Have you ever felt invisible in your own family? Have you ever sacrificed so much that you lost yourself? What did you do to find your way back? I would love to hear your story in the comments. Your experience matters, and you are not alone. If this story resonated with you, please hit that like button. It helps more people find these stories and know they are not the only ones struggling with difficult family dynamics. And if you want to hear more stories about finding your strength and choosing yourself, subscribe to the channel. Share this video with someone who might need to hear it today. Someone who is struggling with boundaries, with family expectations, with the weight of always giving and never receiving. Thank you for listening to my story. Thank you for being here. I hope it gave you something to think about, or maybe even the courage to make a change in your own life. Remember, you are worth more than what you can give away. Your peace matters. Your dreams matter. You matter. Take care of yourself. Choose yourself. You deserve it.